Hey, one more thing before you go. We made it to our 300th episode, Diane.
Yay!
Woo, woo, woo. We
Woo!
used to have sound effects. We don't have them anymore. I disabled the sound effects, so we have to do manual sound effects.
Woo, woo, woo,
Woo. Oof, oof, no, woof,
woo,
woof,
woo. Woof, woof,
woof,
woof, woof,
woof.
woof, woof, woof.
Well, that's close enough, I think.
We're giddy.
I was looking at Charlie. I was putting Charlie's voice into that one. Woof, 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 woof. That was
Oh,
Charlie.
yeah, okay.
What a wonderful opportunity this journey has given us to be connected as we all are within the universe, life, purpose, and sharing experiences, wisdom, wit, humor, family, and friends. We're going to have a conversation about our journey in creating and producing one more thing before you go and how we got here to the 300th episode. So stay tuned. I'm your host, Michael Hurst. I'm here with my lovely wife and Sunday co host, Diane.
Hello.
Welcome to One More Thing Before You Go. What a journey this has been on, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Yes,
It's
it
amazing.
has.
Back in the early days of One More Thing Before You Go, we were like anyone else out there starting something like this creative endeavor with the anticipation of hoping it would succeed. You know, I mean,
Yes.
we've done film festivals, we've done screenwriting conferences, we've
Yep.
done an independent film, we've done a documentary film. It
Mhm.
just seemed like the next logical step, didn't it?
Sure. Yep.
Well, I believe that
It's
we've achieved that goal, providing you the discussions that inspire you. In this 3.5 year journey, we have had conversations about loss, both sudden and long term. We've talked about methodology for getting over grief and moving forward in life, reinventing our lives in purpose after losing someone we loved. We've had conversations that were heartbreaking as well as heartwarming.
yes.
You it's. I start thinking back. It gets me a little emotional a little bit because
Mhm.
the number of people that I've had conversations with has been like amazing. I'm very, very grateful for those people. And I'm grateful for the audiences out there that has
Yep.
grown. I
Yep.
remember, I was at 5 episodes and I was excited,
Yep.
and
I
then
remember.
anticipating when's that gonna grow?
Hmm. Well, and also when you first saw the stat of uh, your worldwide listeners.
Oh yeah, as the well, and that's part of the journey because when I, evolved and I've met the individuals and, moved to different platforms that allowed me to grow into an international audience, it
Hmm.
really opened the doors for me and for us in
Hmm.
regard to that.
Yep.
You
And
know,
how many countries is the show heard in now?
59
59.
and counting.
Counting.
59 and counting. And I've talked to people. I mean, we'll talk about it in a minute here, but realistically, we over this 3.5 years, we've talked about family, friends, struggles, life obstacles, triumph over tragedy, laughter, health, nutrition, mental health, as in
Hmm.
depression, anger issues, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, getting happy, holistic health, Eastern and Western medicine, autism, ALS, rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, dementia, Alzheimer's, childhood and adult domestic violence, trafficking, alcoholism, drug addiction, PTSD, surviving trauma, ghost hunters, psychics, mediums, angels, aliens, and angel talkers, and so much more. Do you believe that?
It's quite a wide variety of things. And when you list them all like that, it sort of sounds uh, kind of on the depressing side, but it wasn't. There are conversations about people moving through these things and how they're still living life, and then also when you get into the paranormal
Hmm.
ish part of it, it's beyond life.
Well, these stories were all stories of people who had overcome obstacles and that were put in
Mhm.
front of them in their lives, whatever they happen to be. Everything I just listed,
Yeah.
and they showed how they saw light at the end of the tunnel and how they had one more thing to do in their life and were
Right.
able to succeed in doing it by being on this podcast to share their journey
Yeah.
and helping other individuals that were walking the same path that weren't sure they had a way out.
Yeah.
So, although all of those things sound depressing, all of those things also have
As
hope
as a
hope in them.
as a list, yeah, as a list,
Yeah,
it's yeah, but really, it's amazing. These stories, the people that you have been able to interview, the
yeah.
stories that they tell are unbelievable.
It is, it is, and we'll talk about a few of them, here in a few minutes. But it has been, it's been. I keep saying journey because to me it is a journey. It's a life journey.
Hmm.
In the 299 episodes that we have up right now, and around the 325 actual interviews that I've done, some of which have not been put up, some are have been done for extras and things like that. I've had the honor and the privilege of speaking to people from all over the world, as we just said, as well as being heard in the 59 countries. So not only are we heard there, I was able to open the doors, which again I'm grateful for all of this. I was able to
Hmm.
open the doors to having conversations with people all over the world. So we talked culture, we talked society and culture, we talked habits and how different we are, but how much the same we are.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
been pretty
it
cool.
goes to show it's I think listeners are able to listen to just about every episode and find something
Something out of
that
it.
they can relate to.
Yeah.
And that's where it all comes full circle, you know?
Well, and as you know, I've developed, in the beginning, in the beginning, you had to remind me a little bit that, Diane, can you please sit down, empty your pockets, and, tell me where you were on Monday and who you were with? To having a nice little conversation,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
casual conversation. It's,
I mean, you have expanded into the more conversational mode instead of interrogation, so it's good.
well,
It's all
I
good.
was an interrogator for a really long time. So, which I mean, we all have experiences that we bring forward with us. And, that
Yeah.
was I think it's the benefit of one more thing before you go, is it gave me the opportunity to learn, to grow,
Mhm.
to get over some of my issues that I've had.
Mhm.
I had PTSD. I've had depression. I've had anger. I've had,
Mhm.
anxiety. Yeah, the the methodologies that these people brought, along with their wisdom and their personal experiences, and the way that they move forward, it allowed me to kind of clear some of that baggage of my own during these
Mhm.
conversations, as well as sharing that with everybody else out there and how they could do the same
Right,
thing.
right. Well, and this all started with your own, you know, I mean, you want to talk about your background, your journey up
Oh,
into this?
yeah, yeah. But I would like to emphasize one thing, though.
Mhm.
Because this brought up as we were talking. I am grateful for the opportunity that I've had to make sure that everyone knows that there's always one more thing before you go, whether it's something that you need to say, you want to say, or had to say, or something that you need to do before it's too late. You know,
Yes.
um, my goal was to make sure that they knew someone was always there that walked the same path as they are, and they came out on the other end, as I said,
Hmm.
and that we together have created an opportunity. You and I have also created opportunity to laugh and to cry and to smile, and to
Hmm.
walk away with um, the fact that maybe we inspired people, we motivated people, we educated people, and done so in such a way that uh, it, at least I'm hoping that it allowed people to move forward in a very positive way. Because when you hear my journey in a second here, I've had to do that myself. So I know what it's like to have to feel those people behind me pushing me
You're going to get emotional.
when
Don't
I
make me
needed
cry.
it,
Stop.
pulling me up when I needed it,
Mhm.
um, holding my hand and walking beside me. So in my conversations, I have tried to create the environment that everybody else can understand that you just have to look around.
And keep going.
Never give up hope.
Mhm.
Never give up hope. Always move forward. So yes, you have been with me through this journey. Our kids have been
Yes.
with us through this journey. this
Yes.
whole time. And, as you know, I had to kind of, for everybody that's out there, some of you may or may not know where I've come from and where I'm at right now. So, I was, I'm a, I'm a retired police sergeant. I was injured in the line of duty, and I developed severe rheumatoid arthritis in the process of my healing and with the injuries. And I was diagnosed to eventually be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And I had to learn to reinvent my life.
Hmm.
I had to learn to find out what my purpose was, what my new purpose was. And because at that time, as I was sergeant, I was going to study for the lieutenant's test and move up the line like my colleagues have done. The people that
Yep.
worked under me and the people who worked beside me, moved up the line and
Yep.
became lieutenants and captains and assistant chiefs, chiefs, sheriffs. So I had to find something that I felt I resonated with. And, as you know, I went back to university and I got a master's degree in interdisciplinary studies with a focus on digital media, performance, and art. And at that time, I thought I was going to go into filmmaking and start documenting things based upon my own life and based upon what I experienced as a police officer with being with people who had lost somebody that never got to say what they wanted to say before they lost them, never got to
Right.
do something they wanted to before they lost them, whether it be an instantaneous loss or a long term loss or a long goodbye. And as you know, I thought, I learned how to use music and drama and art and music, art, drama, and dance
Hmm.
to help people. Uh,
As healing modalities.
Yes, as healing modality, help them move forward from that perspective.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we did a short documentary with that where we took 4 stories and we recreated those environments so that people got the last dance or the music that resonated with them to give them a positive memory of, what they didn't get in, or if they lost somebody, and or a painting or an art to show them that you can express yourself with art. And it was, or or drama, to act it
Mhm.
out.
Right.
So that's where one more thing before you go actually was born from. It was born
Mhm.
from that documentary back in 2010, 2011. And when I came out of there, um, as we know, my health took a turn for the worse, like they promised it would, and it did.
Yep. That's
And
it.
in that journey, it kind of derailed me a little bit more from what I wanted to kind of do. And um, I had to come to think of something. I was sitting around in a wheelchair feeling sorry for myself until Caitlin, our oldest daughter, when she was getting married, I asked her, what do you want for a wedding present? And she looked me square in the eye and said, I want you to walk me down the aisle. And I know you can do it. So that kind of got me out of my depression and my anger and my resentment. And I, we set forth on reinventing my life and our life and my purpose, basically. And I found the doctor. We found Dr. Berghoff, Robert Berghoff, brilliant surgeon. And
Yeah. He I think with what he was able to do for you through several surgeries,
three from him,
free from him,
three
um,
from Dr. Berghoff.
was to just give you more of a sense of hope that you could move on.
Well, I walked Caitlin down the aisle. It
Hmm.
was slow, but I walked her down the aisle. So, in fact, that's one of her favorite pictures
Hmm. Yep, mine too.
from the wedding.
Hmm.
So, and I have to give credit to you and to Nicole, our youngest, and to Caitlin, and my brother-in-law and my sister, and the colleagues that supported this whole thing. Nicole had no issues whatsoever when she had to push me in a wheelchair around. Remember when Mary had her cancer survivor walk?
Hmm.
Nicole had no issues pushing me around in a wheelchair. You
Yep.
know, she treated me like dad, uh,
Yep.
somebody with a disability. So anyway, fast forward. Yes, if you everything this disease has done to me, I've had 8 operations, and things continue to move forward for us. And I needed to find something new for me. And
Yes, you did.
Caitlin again, she said, "Hey, Dad, you ever heard of a podcast?" I went, "No." She said,
No,
"Listen, you got
what's
to listen
that?
to this."
Hmm.
She goes, I think you're going to be good at this because you love to talk and you got a story to tell."
Hmm.
So that's kind of where we moved from making a documentary film to starting a podcast. So I spent the last half of 2019 researching everything I could about how to start one and what I needed and what we needed to get. And uh, one more thing before you go was born and launched in January of 2020.
It did. Right before the world shut down.
That
So,
was kind of a benefit, and
yeah.
it's a double-edged sword because it allowed me to gain, I think, a wider audience as we grew, especially when we moved over to Captivate with the podcast. And but at the same time, it's kind of like, oh no, everybody else is jumping on the bandwagon too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, a lot of people just kind of went, okay, I lost my job. What do I do now? Well, let's do a podcast.
Let's do a
So,
podcast.
yeah.
Well, a lot of those people have dropped off, but the podcast
Yeah.
industry has grown immensely. I'm talking about, 5.4 million people worldwide now. When I first started this one, there was only 876,000, and I thought, okay, we can manage this. We can get in the middle of this. And when we
Hmm.
moved to Captivate, things started jumping and started getting better interviews. And when I say better interviews, I mean I started getting quality guests
Right.
with great content that was an
Yes.
asset to the audience, which is what my mantra is. My mantra is inspire, motivate, and educate.
Now, I
So
think you might want to kind of briefly explain what Captivate is to the audience because,
Captivate.fm is a podcast platform where when you have a podcast, that you need to host your podcast before it goes out to the world. And that platform, it takes your RSS feed, and then without giving you a huge lesson, but
yeah.
that RSS feed then spreads it around to all the other platforms like Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, Castbox, everybody else that is a podcast listening platform. That's how you get the podcast, is from that perspective. And Mark has an ideal way of helping individuals that are podcasting, especially in the beginning, of growing your audience and how to grow your podcast and do it the right way. And he's got the tools put in place to help things move forward exponentially. So that's where I kind of got really lucky because I got in with them with the ground floor, and he has been a mentor to me along this journey myself. Within podcasting, as well as Chris Kremitsas. I was
Chris
practicing that.
K.
I was
Chris K.
practicing that. He helped me with Podfest, and that opened up a whole new world to me because of the Podfest was a global online. At the time, they moved to online because of COVID, but online conference platform for
Yeah.
podcasters. And my networking grew again exponentially.
Huge.
And
Yeah.
I
Huge.
yeah, I've spoken 4 times with Podfest Global, including 2 world record audiences. So it's really it's been good for us in that regard. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And it goes back to the conversations that I've had still allow individuals exactly what I in was the intention was to
Hmm.
inspire, motivate, and educate and entertain. Because
Yes.
we evolve like everybody else, and we're evolving now. We'll talk about that here close to the end of the episode, but we're going to evolve a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
And you've been able to give people a platform for their story that maybe they were never even intending to tell. I
yes,
think someone came on
yeah,
going,
yeah.
okay, what do I do? Like, how do I talk about this? And because you are a great conversationalist, you were able to just say, don't worry, I got you. You can do this. And this is what
And
we're going to do. We're just going to have a conversation.
Yeah, brought it along.
So,
And I've been very grateful for that because it's allowed me, as you all have listened to this podcast, and I hope you continue to stay on this journey with this evolvement that we are in at the moment. But with anything, we have to grow, and sometimes growth means change,
mhm.
and the change is going to be good because I am dedicated in bringing content that is of value to everybody that's out here listening, and to you as the audience, you as the listener,
Right.
or if you're watching on YouTube. um,
Mhm.
my my goal is to bring you valuable content that you can walk away with something each and every time that you come on and listen, whether it be, no matter what it would be, whether it be a
Mhm.
lesson or whether it be a methodology or learn something or inspire you to change or do something, or that you have the ability that of looking around you and see who can pull you forward or move you forward, or who look around and see whose hand you can hold. If you need a hand, hold a hand to get you
Or
through
ex-
something,
or exploring the mysteries of the universe that
or
is all
exploring the
around
mysteries of the
us,
universe.
and yeah,
So yeah, it's interesting. So do you want to share? Why don't we share like maybe top 10? I mean, look, I love each and every one of these episodes
I know
that
you
I
do.
have had. Each one of these,
Yep.
it's very difficult to really pick out like my favorite
Right.
episodes, but I can at least say there's some very distinct ones that I think that maybe we could talk about, that milestones, so to speak, and as well as there are some of my favorites, and they
Mhm.
did have a major impact.
Yes. And we can't go through 300 episodes, so you might as well just do top
No,
10.
no, no, no. But
Nope.
I have to give a shout out. The first episode that was released in January 2020 was that thing about losing someone close to you, and that was done with our daughter Caitlin.
Mm.
It was kind of I won't say a pay it forward or pay it back, but kinda,
Kind of. Yeah.
yeah, because she experienced losing a number of people in her life, but one in particular was a surprise, and it affected her in a different way. That she lost one of her best and closest friends to cancer, and it was something that was hidden from the world, as well as from Ryan's closest friends. And it is our first episode. It kicked off One More Thing Before You Go, because we talked
Right.
about feelings and what people feel when they lose somebody. Again, when I said earlier, whether it be instantaneously or whether or not it would be the long goodbye, which is
Mm.
disease like cancer or ALS, or dementia, and anything along that line. Um, and I know that when we first did it, she was a little hesitant about talking to everything, but
Yeah. She was
over,
she was still working through her feelings about it,
yeah,
I think, when you guys did the episode. So, um, she has been able to move through it, I think,
yeah,
pretty well, and move forward, and know that, she always watches for signs from him,
yeah.
and she gets
Hummingbirds.
very,
Was it
yeah,
hummingbirds?
hummingbird.
Hummingbirds.
Yeah, and it's always her. She just gets so excited every time. So,
She had hummingbirds outside her house, her apartment or condo,
hmm
that built a nest up in the tree
hmm
next to their window and felt comfortable enough to put it right there on the patio.
yeah, more than
And
once.
more than once, and have some little baby
Hmm
hummingbirds.
Yeah, yeah.
And then again, as a family affair, episode 3. Um, no, wait a minute. It's not family affair on this one. Episode 3 was my first medium. That was in March of 2020.
Oh, right.
Yeah, yeah. That thing
hmm
about messages from the other side with Marissa Madden. She's a clairvoyant, she's a medium, and she has a unique gift of talking to the other side and transcribing that message to you via a written letter. And
hmm
the interesting part about Marissa was, because she was my first medium. Um, you know, it kind of felt, believe it or not. I mean, you would think, because I really didn't. I mean, we're familiar with mediums. We were familiar with
Right,
psychics.
right.
But I think the conversation went really, really well, and she enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it, because we
Yeah.
explored some things that she had been on other podcasts and went, "Wow, you've asked me all these different questions that I hadn't even thought of."
hmm
Yeah, she was pretty cool. We actually
It's a
stayed
good.
in touch for a little while. I stayed in touch with every one of the people that I've actually talked to in the past. So
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah, pretty much. Well, you develop a connection,
Hmm.
and the connection, you share a journey, you share something that's deeply personal, and because of that, it just gives me the opportunity to kind of, you know,
Well, it's been very good for you to be able to do that.
it is, it
So,
is.
yeah.
Um, then the next one's episode 5. That's again, this is the family fair because we have Caitlin, and of course
Mhm.
you and I do over the Teacup Sundays, and we're
Yes.
doing this one. But
Yeah.
episode 5 was in February 24th, 2020. That thing about health, the health industry just might be killing me.
Hmm.
Nicole was our guest, and she's our youngest daughter. But there was the story of a young woman living on her own under the age of 35 who suffers from an autoimmune disease, endometriosis, which is like a absolutely terrible disease for
Yes.
for women to have. It says some potential serious issues with her breast health. She shares her story and her struggles with being underinsured, battling high deductibles and health professionals who would not cooperate with her, which she's
Mm.
still going through today.
Still
Well, we
today,
all are.
we all are.
Yeah, we all
That's a
are.
whole other episode
We all are.
that we may need to do soon. Yeah.
But the thing about one more thing before you go, and yes, we've talked about a lot of things, but the motto is, or the tagline is, a unique conversation about life.
Hmm.
And what I've tried to do, and what you have tried to do, even when we've had our Sunday episodes, is bring that unique conversation about life to the surface, so
Yeah.
that there's things that people really don't want to talk about, sometimes don't like to talk about, but a lot of times need to be talked about.
Yes, and because that's pretty much the basis of the show,
Yeah,
on our Sunday episodes, we do try to keep it a little bit on the lighter side, and
lighter
we
side.
do more about entertainment, more about movies and TV. But who knows? We might have some deeper conversations going forward, and with the new platform we're going to have,
The new modality.
new
Should I
modality.
say that in the movie trailer voice? One more thing before you go, as a new modality. Stay tuned.
No, don't do that. No, we'll figure something else out.
How about episode 14, July 27, 2020? That thing about angels among us with a celebrity psychic Laura Powers. In this episode, we explored that thing about angels among us, whether or not to believe in the angels, if they're real, and what an angel is and what they can do for you. And basically, she kind of lays out the story of how she first became connected to angels, and says that she eventually learned that she's an angel on earth. And she said celebrity psychic because she's talked to people like Will Ferrell and I mean a lot of actors, and she's done
Mhm.
it publicly, and she's
Mhm.
done sessions with them, and
Yeah.
she was pretty good at it, and she's kind of made the rounds, on some of the major networks and things like that.
Mhm.
And I found it interesting. Two things that were interesting about this episode. I don't know if you remember them, but one of them, she says that she can actually connect with your pets on the other side,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is, that's pretty cool to me
That's
because
really cool.
everybody says, oh, they go over the rainbow, and you don't ever hear from them. They don't really have a soul, but she
That's
says
not
yes, they
true.
do have a soul, and
Yes.
that that soul can be connected with them. So, angels among us. You can check out her. Any one of these things, I encourage you to go back and check if you're just joining us
Mhm.
on one more thing before you go. But during the episode, we learned about angels and demons and how they exist in our lives, whether
Mhm.
someone believes in them or not, and it's not determined by religious or spiritual beliefs. In fact, you were you were listening to the episode for me, and while you were
Yeah.
listening to it, you caught something. You were listening to the raw audio,
Right.
and
Right.
you caught something that I did not catch when I was doing the the original edit. And I don't remember what I was doing, getting a cup of tea or something. You're going, Michael,
Yeah.
Michael, you got to hear this.
I think I said, wait, are you kidding me? Did did you hear? Why didn't you tell me about this? You said what? I said, did you not hear what? I still get chills. I still get
Oh,
chills.
it's interesting because I mean I'll give it away a little bit, but the whole story is in the episode, so you can go back and listen to the episode. And actually, we put it up for a couple of throwback Sundays and things like that, so you can find it. Other than the original one, you can find it throughout the last 300. But basically, we were talking
Just say
about.
you. We can just say you were visited.
Well, yeah, I'll give them a little more because you want to hear it. I think you want to hear it. So basically, I came back in the computer onto the computer, and there was a time period that we were talking, and while we were talking about dark angels,
You and Laura.
me and Laura, or
Yeah,
Laura and I.
Laura.
And while we were talking about these dark angels, all of a sudden we started having audio issues and video issues, and I mean it was really we couldn't continue the conversation. So we stopped for a minute, and then we reconnected, and then we started the conversation again. So back
Mhm.
in the edit for the raw video, which would what you were listening to, during that time period that took place, there was a major growl, like an angry growl, like a wolf or something over my shoulder.
It was
That
very distinct.
yeah, it was, and it's like
Yeah.
whoa, and it was at the exact point
Hmm.
in the
Yep.
interview where the interview was messing up.
Hmm.
So it's like, and I went ahead and put it back in. I didn't put it in there in the original episode, but I put
No.
it back in again so that you could hear it and kind of check it out. But yeah, it
So
kind
it's
of
so when you say that it's in a subsequent throwback episode is where you put that in.
I did, but then I think I went back and I think I went back and put the full episode up on this one, which was what episode was that? Episode 14. I think I
Okay.
went back and re-uploaded episode 14 fully
Mm,
so that they have
okay.
it. But there's also some throwbacks that has the growl in it, and I
Yeah.
mean you got to listen
Can't
to
miss
it.
it.
Got to
Can't
listen
miss
to
it.
it. Yeah, but it was yeah. And then when I told her about it, she went, "Oh yeah, that's why we had our issue because they didn't want me telling you."
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
like, "Holy crap!" Just
Dark
holy crap.
angels did not want to be known.
No, they did. And then we're not saying archangels. We're saying dark angels.
Dark, dark angels.
DARK, dark.
Yeah, which is something you don't usually hear about. So yes,
No, no, no,
it's a
no.
great episode. It's a great episode. People need to go back and listen to it.
Then episode 19. It was back in August of 2020, 2021. In the first over the teacup episode that we do on Sundays,
Mm-hmm.
of which we've had many since then.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like. I mean, that's one of my favorite because in that one we actually tried something where we did kind of an after party where we talked about the previous episode that had gone up, and
Yeah.
that episode was with Jeffrey Bryan. He has a passion for music, and he was,
Mm-hmm.
or he is, an actor and and a songwriter and a singer,
Mm-hmm.
and currently I think he's with Journey,
No,
not Journey,
not no. If he was, I'd be
no, not Journey.
what?
That's
No. Um, are
the
you
guys
talking about
that
the
did
band?
Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, Survivor, honey, Survivor.
So he currently is touring with. The last time I checked, because we're still friends with April, his wife, and still
Right.
in contact with him, and he was touring with the band Survivor, which is
Yes.
ironic and unique connection to that because um, uh, Jeffrey was an actor on the original Karate Kid movies,
Mm-hmm.
and he was one of the guys that was one of the bad guys actually,
He
and
was.
ended up befriending Daniel ended up kind of in the end kind of befriending Daniel a little bit, and so he went from that. The band Survivor actually played the music for the movie, and then what? 20 years later, he's in the band.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty
It's
crazy. He
pretty
thought
cool.
that was
Yeah.
kind of a unique, and they forgot because he brought up and he said, "Oh yeah, you guys did that on this, and I was this kid," and they kind of went, "Wow, we didn't even know that when we auditioned you."
That's
So
pretty cool.
yeah, that's pretty cool. So and that was a
Yeah.
really good episode because we talk about music and the love of music and how it affects you and how he had a choice between acting and music, and he did a little bit of acting, but then he chose music, and he says he's
Yep.
never looked back.
Yep.
And then
It's like,
another profound one was episode 20, September 1st, 2020, my first ghost hunter interview, because we're big ghost hunter watchers,
yes.
whether it be
I
Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunter or
I'm not, I don't know why I'm not as into it as I used to be. And I definitely, when you want to start playing it at 9 at night, I'm like, no, no, I don't know what happened.
well, I can understand that. It is. I don't know understand what happened either, but it really
I
was
know.
nice to be able to talk to. I mean, this conversation was with Christy Sumner, and she and a couple of her sisters have a thing called Soul Citrus Paranormal,
Hmm.
and they've got a YouTube channel with it so that you get to see some of it. And so I've had subsequent conversations with Christy
Hmm.
since then. And
Yeah.
in the beginning, I got to learn from the inside out about ghost hunting, and then eventually we've talked about some of her different places. Like she went to the Axe Murder House, she went to Lizzie Borden's house. She
Mm.
we did another episode with her where they were talking about uh, oh, I forgot the gang, the Barker gang from way back when. They got to go to the Barker house, and there's a gang from the '40s, and
Okay.
they
Are you talking
literally
about, was it
Maul Barker and
Mav Barker?
yeah. So
Okay.
Bugsy Siegel was there, and I mean there was a whole slew of that era of gangsters,
That's
and
cool.
yeah, they got some residual stuff, and they
Hmm.
got some new stuff where they actually responded to them. And she
Cool.
said they were the first people that were able to go into that house. So it's pretty cool, actually. So Christy
Hmm.
Sumner in the Soul Sisters Paranormal are several episodes, not just that one, but throughout the
Hmm.
podcast, you'll find that we've had numerous conversations, and I continue to enjoy her stuff because she is a professional paranormal investigator. She, along with her sisters, again visited haunted. I I failed to say this. What's interesting about her and what they do is they go to historic places,
Yes.
and not only do they give you the history behind it, they
Right.
also give you the ghost story behind it. So you kind of get two lessons really, because they
Yeah.
get behind the scenes. I mean, they dig in behind the scenes for some of the history stuff. And she
Great
introduced me
idea.
to another lady, the ghost biker lady, who does the same thing, but
Mhm.
she does it on a Harley.
Yeah. She's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
she's
Pretty
kind of
badass.
cool. Yeah, she
You know,
does it
you
on
need,
a
I
Harley.
think it's about time you do another episode with Christy. It's been a little while.
I need to do them with her, and I also need to do them with the ghost biker.
With the Ghost
I
Biker.
need to
Yep.
do with both of them. I think because I think that yeah, we need to like, reignite that little fire. I think,
Yeah.
but I always enjoy them, and they keep coming back, and I like to have
Yep.
people back on that episodes do well, and their episodes have always done well.
Very well.
Episode 33, October 20th, 2020, that thing about loving someone who is dying.
Mhm.
In this episode, we learn of the story of a young man that lost not only his lifelong best friend, but the love of his life as well. And we learn how to live every day to the fullest because it could be gone in an instant. As we said before, life can change in an instant. I didn't say that earlier, but life can change in an instant.
Yes.
Nicholas Strand, he's an author, the podcast host of Choose Your Attitude, to try to inspire people and other ones that they know that, he, that are going through the same thing he has. He's got
Right.
his book about loving someone who's dying, tells the journey he went on with the love of his life. And they were high school sweethearts. And
Mhm.
he married her knowing that she had cystic fibrosis. And I've used this story when I've discussed people who want to get into podcasting with a purpose,
Mhm.
because this individual is the epitome of purpose for his podcast. Because
Mm.
this one is an inspiring story. I mean, he's got his own challenges and his own health challenges that have shown up since.
Mhm.
And he continues to move forward, and he created a foundation under her name that continues to help people in his position as well as others. And it's one of my favorite episodes for the fact that it's one of my most heartwarming episodes.
Yeah. I would agree.
Is what it is. It was one of the
Mm.
most heartwarming episodes.
Yep.
But then we go from that all the way up to episode 88. June 9th, 2021, Escape to Ravioli Mountain. In this episode, we take a journey through one man's loss of his mother. Are you ready for this? I mean, I know you know this. Three
Mm.
relatives and 17 friends to COVID 19. He worked,
That's insane.
yeah, he works in the entertainment industry, both on and off Broadway in New
Hmm.
York City.
Hmm.
So, you know, it it it
New
spreads
York
fast when
City.
you're there,
Yeah, New York City got hit
big time,
so
big time.
hard, so hard. Yeah.
So, right in the middle of the pandemic, he's surviving COVID himself. He had it himself, but he watched
Hmm.
17 of his friends die. He watched three members of his family die of it. And he discovered a passion for reliving in the life of his best friend, his hero, his mother. So
Hmm.
we bring him on. We tell that story, and we find out how Bobby Hedgeland Taylor, he's a theatrical aerial designer and circus trainer. Yeah, his works are featured on Broadway, off Broadway, national tours and rock concerts. He was the Cirque choreographer for RWS and Holland America Cruise Lines and performed twice with the band Fish in Madison Square Garden.
Hmm.
He, we talk about his two books that he wrote: Escape to Ravioli Mountain, a memoir in food, and uh, if you got kids close by, cover your ears. Shit, my mama says. um, and you know, it's an Italian. They're Italian, and the Ravioli Hill's all about the hill
Ravi-
that his
Ravioli,
ancestors.
Ravioli Mountain,
Ravioli Mountain. What I say?
Ravioli Hill.
Oh, that's because when I was a kid, we had Lizard Hill. Difference between
Ravioli,
lizard and ravioli.
Ravioli Mountain sounds more appetizing
It does.
than Lizard Hill.
I guess you could always eat a lizard, but I don't want to.
I'm sure people do somewhere.
But I want to eat ravioli. So he created a
Yeah.
cookbook because it was his parents, his grandparents, his aunts, his uncles, and everybody. They all moved up into this mountain, this hill. Well, actually, it was a hill, but he calls it Ravioli Mountain. And they all lived in that little compound, and it was Italian, and then Italian Americans eventually. And so he collected all these recipes and learned how to cook all these meals. And he takes them and put them in a book. And he said that's the way he allows the legacy of his mother and his relatives that did die to move on and live on. So
Right.
it's a great story. You should listen to it.
Yeah. I
And
have
he's a
listened
really
to it.
nice guy. He sent me a ton of recipes. He wanted he and I to go cook some on air actually.
That's right. You just
Yeah.
haven't been able to do that yet.
No, because he ended up having a hip surgery and or a double hip surgery or something, and then had to work his way
Hmm.
back to getting back up on the aerial, which he's done,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then
Sure.
so anyway, it's really good. It's a heartwarming story as well. Episode 90, June 20th, 2021. That thing about practicing death. In this episode, we share a journey of Jerry Murphy. He's a man who faced a unique near-death experience after spending 5 days in an ICU in New York. I don't know if you remember me telling you about that one.
Yes, vaguely remember you
He
telling me
was
about that one.
yeah, he was isolated. Yeah, he ended up in the hospital. They didn't know what happened to him. He collapsed and then he froze, but he was awake. So he was like paralyzed, but he was
Ah.
awake. So he
Mhm.
was not allowed food or water. They had to do everything intravenously. He was not coherent or comprehending any, enough communication with his loved ones, and he was too scared to go to sleep in case he didn't wake up.
Mhm.
He basically the he could hear everything that was going on, almost like in a coma,
Right.
is what he said. It's
Right.
almost like in a coma. But
But really more aware than what you would be in a coma.
yes, so his
Wow.
wife and his family kept bringing in music for him to listen to because they recommend that for people in a coma to see if they
Hmm.
can get them to recognize it. In which I learned from the stuff that I learned in university that that helps people to resonate. It helps immensely for dementia patients and Alzheimer patients.
Yeah.
They'll remember a song and they'll get a smile and they'll sing to it.
Yeah.
Even though they may not remember who you are, it's
Yeah.
amazing. So they did that to elevate his spirits and to kind of mend his heart. And when he realized what was really important in life during that time period, he
Hmm.
describes his medical trauma in great detail during the episode, how he was completely isolated and separated from his wife and his kids. The near death, he calls it near death experience because he felt like he was signing his life away forever, and that
Right.
that he was never going to come out of this, and that to him, he said it was a practice to death.
Yeah.
The only difference was is that he was wide awake. You
Wow.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy,
Hmm.
crazy, crazy. But he when he got out of that, he understood that music really played an important factor in how he was able to heal and come through. And they were talking about pulling the plug on him and everything, and he couldn't even speak up in regard to the fact, "Don't do that to me." He couldn't move his hand, he couldn't move his feet, he couldn't move a finger. Eventually it started coming out, of it, where
Right.
he started movement, and they saw flutters in his eyes and things like that. And they went, "Okay, we're not going to do this." But
Right.
you'll learn all that when you listen to the episode. An amazing, it's an amazing story, actually.
Sounds like.
Episode one,
Yeah.
I'm almost done. Episode 134, December 3rd, 2021. The thing about laughter yoga, the magic stress reliever with Pete Can, the laughter man. This one, I know you didn't get a chance to listen to this one, but I told you
I
about
have
it.
not. No, and I
Yeah.
should because I do yoga almost every day now.
Well, he says laughter is the best medicine. And, he talks about how he combines laughter with yoga to help you
Hmm.
improve your life and those around you. Laughter yoga is a stress reliever and a health secret type thing, is what he says. And he asked me, can you remember the last time you really, really just laughed uncontrollably? So, he said in this episode, we talk about the laughter and how it makes us feel, how we can change the moods of others, ourselves, and others around us because of that. And then
Hmm.
he takes that and he combines it with yoga. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, it's really
Well,
interesting.
I know when I laugh that hard uncontrollably, I end up crying, like sobbing. So I don't know what that means, but I guess
Well,
I can combine it with yoga and see what happens,
see
right?
what happens, right? He says it can transform your life and those around you by utilizing it. So, it's
No.
yoga, it's meditation, it's laughter, and it can. To him, it creates a greater sense of health and well-being.
Well, I
And
know the next episode I'm going to listen to.
is that one?
That's the one.
So, episode 197, July 13th, 2022, How to Live Life with Both Wins and Losses with James Hepner. And in this episode, James talks about his business. He was strong. His wealth was plentiful. He had everything that he would ever want and wish for. He had cars and money, and thought he was on a great job and everything. And he found himself sitting on the end of the bed, contemplating suicide. And he had
Just
to
out of the blue.
out of the blue. Somebody who had
Wow.
everything, you had everything, that he thinks that you would think you would want. Again,
Right?
money, job, family. And, basically, he teaches us to recognize that losses are simply disguised as gifts hidden in plain sight. And we talk about how he came to learn those kind of valuable lessons and the best way to discover new perspectives and how to see
Mhm.
your opportunities in like a new way and embrace both wins and losses. Because I think part of it was that he felt that he was going to lose. I think he felt he was going to lose everything, and he was always on the edge of: Am I going to lose this? Am I going to lose this? Am I going to lose my job? Am I
No,
going to
I
lose
can
my money? Am I
understand
going to
that.
lose my car? Am I going to lose my house? Am I going to lose my
Mhm.
family? And he let it dwell on him so much that it just got brought him to that point.
That makes sense. I mean, I could see, having it all
Yeah.
as everybody would think that you should have it, and then that could cause some anxiety, I would think that would, yeah, you'd always feel like, when's it going to go away? When's it going to go away?
Yeah, and that's where he was. So
Hmm.
he pulled himself
Interesting.
out of that, and we're still in contact today. Actually, he's a really nice guy.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that brings us to a really positive episode 201, July 27th, 2022. That thing about higher consciousness, angels, and the new earth with Seth Dietland. And, Seth's
Mm.
another angel talker. And
Yes.
we both met him.
Yep.
He's a wonderful individual. And
Yes.
he talks about
He's
what it's like to channel angels and how does it feel to reach a higher consciousness of the universe. And then what do you do, what do you do if you have a spiritual being tell you, that the new earth is coming, which is what they told him.
Mhm.
And, he had to make a decision whether or not to share it with the world or whether or not to hold it within himself.
Mhm.
And, he's a certified hypnotherapist. He's a, a stream of consciousness channel who works with on the angelic realm. His
Mhm.
communications with the angels centers around things like the subject of conscious shift that we're all experiencing that will bring in the new earth, what he keeps calling the new earth. And I've heard this about, I don't know, 4 or 5 times throughout my conversations through the last three and a
With
half years.
different people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about the new earth and
Hmm.
how to create miracles through accessing your higher conscious states, both personally and globally. He's the host of 2 podcasts, Talk to My Angels and Earth Angels International. It's an organization that unites and gives voice to others who wish to raise consciousness at this time in our life, basically. And it really, he's a wonderful individual. He exudes
Yes.
positivity, and
That's what I was
um,
going to say is just being around him in his space. But even listening to the episode, I got it as well. But then when we
yeah,
met him, he's just one of these people that
yeah,
you just calm down. Like everything you feel the energy in the room just kind of go easy and
yeah.
go calm, and it's just it's amazing.
Yeah, and just to clarify, when Diane says when we met him in person. So we took a meeting with him in person and had a nice lunch, and it was
Hmm.
pretty cool actually. Um, so out of all of those, I mean, do you have anything? Do you remember anything in particular? I mean, look, I could have touched upon the latest ones that I've had that are really, really, really dear to my heart. That you know, um, again, I've got another 150 I could go through.
It's just there's just so many. They're all
uh,
so good in their own way, and
we'd be
they all
here.
have something to say. And I
We
can't really pick anything in specific because they're all just so good.
Yeah, it just works. And we're not just saying that. I mean,
No.
like I said, each and every time I've walked away with something myself in things that even after a conversation, I've talked to probably 15, 16, 17 different psychic mediums,
Hmm.
and I still learn something every time I do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I may have talked to more than that during that time period. I think maybe I have.
And maybe seems like you've interviewed a lot of them.
Now here I might tear up just a wee bit, so we can't tell anybody.
Okay.
Speaking of all those episodes, I love each and every one of the conversations that I've had and that you and I have had, Diane, my Sunday co-host, for those of you that are not watching, because it's given me an education in humanity, compassion, fortitude, perseverance, love, laughter, and hate. And I can't wait for this new chapter of One More Thing Before You Go. I want to thank you for helping us to reach this milestone of 300 episodes because we've been on this amazing journey together. And you need to know that we're not done yet. But before we embark on the next chapter, let me remind you of what we've accomplished so far, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
In our last episode, you got a glimpse of how we are evolving and how we are going to explore new things from different angles. We hope you'll continue to join us on this adventure through this thing we call life. After 300 consecutive episodes and 335 interviews, we're going to take a break.
Mhm. It's okay. Hey, breaks are good. It's a rejuvenation. That's what it is.
It's where I get a little emotional because I feel like I'm telling my child, "Sorry, Daddy will be back later."
It's gonna be good. It's
Go out
gonna
and
be good.
buy
Look,
go out to buy a carton of milk, and
all of us, we all grow and evolve,
we do.
right? So does the podcast.
But don't worry, we're going to share some of our favorites, the ones that we just had, and some more with you that will keep you entertained and enlightened. And when we do come back in about 5 weeks, you'll find that we have switched to seasons and a new format. So
Hmm.
please enjoy the best of our shows, and we'll see you in about 5 weeks with a variety of unique guests and thought provoking discussions on topics ranging from pop culture to the metaphysical. Get ready for engaging, inspiring, and educational conversations that leave you with that one more thing before you go, a memorable takeaway that expands your perspective and enriches your understanding through life, culture, and the mysteries of the universe and the human experience, your
Hmm.
gateway to a fascinating exploration of life's wonders. It's what we've been doing. We're just going to do it more, and we're going to
Yeah,
do it even better than we've been doing it.
that's right. That's right. Hmm?
So Please tune in and unlock the hidden depths of existence as we embrace the extraordinary possibilities that await us in the universe and within ourselves. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Before You Go Podcast. And look at our website, beforeyougopodcast.com. This is our 300th episode, and this is One More Thing Before You Go. Would you like to say anything before we go?
Yes, I do. Thank you, everyone who has been with us so far on this journey, and I hope you have enjoyed each and every episode. And for those of you who might be just joining us for the first time this episode, I hope that you check some of them out, the ones we've talked about so far, and many others, because there's, 299 other ones to enjoy. I also really want to say that, Michael, I'm just so proud of you for doing this. This has been a labor of love on your part, and you've been up late, a few nights here and there, trying to get things done. Like I said, you are the guy. The girls and I are here to help when you need it. You might bounce ideas off of us and description ideas and things like that for episodes, but that's about the extent of it. And yeah, I'm on occasional Sundays, but you really are the show. And I'm so proud of you. I know the girls are so proud of you. Family's proud of you. You've worked so hard on this, that yes, you deserve this break. So I hope everybody understands that this is just, something that needs to happen, and he will be back in 5 weeks, and I will be too once in a while. And we are really excited about the new format that we're going to have, and hope that y'all have a great 5 weeks while we're gone, and we'll see you back.
So, thank you, everybody, for listening. One more thing before you go. Have a great day. Have a great week. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go. Check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.